We did our chapter on sex, sexuality, and gender. Sex is basically the biological form of which you are born in, which is male or female. Gender is what you associate yourself with, either physically, your characteristics, and your personality. When someone is intersex, that means they are born with both genders attached to them. And 17 out of 1,000 babies have this. Sexual orientation is basically the emotional feeling you get towards something or someone. There are 4 types. There's heterosexual, which is opposite sex, homosexual, which is the same sex, bisexual, which is either sex, and asexual, which is neither sex. Now, the essentialist theory, or essentialist approach, is that your genetic origins are what pertain to what gender you are, and you cannot change that. And basically, that membership to that gender defines your identity. And an example of it is women are better housewives, and masculinity and femininity are determined by biology, which is called human sexual dimorphism. And then the constructionist approach is basically gender is determined by society, and that you are either male or female is not the only way to classify people in how they are as a person.
Gender inequality started from the beginning of time, which made sense because how the way of life was constructed back in the day to how it's constructed right now, which leads to functionalists. There's 2 different types of functionalists. You have instrumental role, which is activities are better suited for the appropriate gender, such as the men would be doing physical things such as building, hunting, and then you have the expressive role, which was mainly handed down to the females. It's more of a leadership in the family role, cooking, cleaning, just those type of things. And then conflict theorists believe men had more privileges and access more resources, which made sense because think about it. The females at those times were confined into the family environment, raising, nurturing, and it gave the men opportunity to go out and just see what's out there, the resources, networking, and accomplishing all sorts of things. The 2 well-known sociologists that are important to this subject are Friedrich Engels, and then you have Marvin Harris. Now, Friedrich believed women were treated only to what they brought to the table, work-wise. And then Harris believed gender inequality is simply because the war and just the everyday system of life. Now, which leads to interactionalists. Now, with interactionalists, it really explains how gender inequality was constructed, maintained, and reproduced. So, in a cycle. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. A little girl growing up, she will see her mother, mainly is in the house, cooking, cleaning, and then the father is out the house working, bringing in the money and whatnot. So it's a cycle. Those things are implemented into that little girl, and she takes on that role later on in life. So that's how it's constructed, and how it's maintained is without changing, and the system's still growing, and it's reproduced as in the next generation witnessing it and following the same exact steps.
Feminism. We all probably have heard of this term before. We may have our own interpretation or perception of what feminism really is, and there is this common misconception that feminism is woman wanting to be masculine or wanting to be men, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. The true definition of feminism is a belief in the social, political, and economic equality of both sexes. And feminism is a conflict theory that examines inequalities in both genders. And it's not just a belief of the equality of both sexes, but also the social movements organized around that belief, the actions taken based off of that belief of feminism. Feminism originally occurred in the mid-19th century. During 1920, women finally won their right to vote. And during the second wave of feminism, this era mainly focused on the issues of women's access or equal access to employment and education and equal pay. And the most recent era of feminism, which is referred to as the third wave, this era mainly focuses on the variety of different identities that women possess in modern society. And along with the different eras, there are also a variety of different types of feminism. There's liberal feminism, socialist feminism, which focuses on equal pay, being that the women make 70 cents for every dollar the man makes. There's also cultural feminism, postmodern feminism, and the most extreme feminism would be radical. And that mainly focuses on the elimination of the concept of gender. And there are a variety of other different types of feminism, and this is just breaking the surface of what feminism truly is.